Good morning, students. How are you? I hope that all of you are sailing in the boat of joy, and by the grace of God, even me too fine. So, I, Sanjeev Sharma, lecturer in English, welcome all of you in my channel. In my previous video, I had uploaded the chapter, the last lesson of 12th class, and today, on public demand, I would like to upload the first chapter of 11th class, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. I hope that all of you will listen to me attentively by avoiding my follies. The Portrait of a Lady is an autobiography of Khushwant Singh, a renowned personality of India. He was a good lawyer, he was a good author, he was a good writer, he was a good diplomat. It means, in short, I would like to say that he was one of the renowned personalities of India. During the riots of 1947, during partition, when Pakistanis were coming to India, when Indians were going to Pakistan, at that time, means that he had seen the huge massacre. It means the thousands of dead bodies he had seen at that time, and that had, deeply attacked his mind, and he had decided to write a book. And in 1956, he had published a book, A Train to Pakistan, which had given him worldwide popularity among the literates of English literature. That's why he is having eminent and prominent place in the history of entire English literature. It's a proud for India, and unfortunately recently in 2014 he had died and he is no more in the world, but due to his creativities that we do feel him alive among us. So here we are going to start the autobiography written by him, The Portrait of a Lady. The Portrait of a Lady, it is the autobiography of the life of Khushwant Singh, the writer himself. He has depicted his life in three phases. Yes, boys and girls, three phases. Phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. In phase 1, he has described that when he was in the early days of his childhood, when he was a very small boy, at that time he used to live with his grandmother in a village. Because his parents, they had left him under the surveillance of his grandmother because they had shifted to the city for seeking a better opportunity for earning money. And now he, along with his grandmother, used to live in the village. And before starting the first phase, he has pen portrayed his grandmother. He has given a very beautiful picture of his grandmother. His grandmother, she was a widow, and she used to wear white sari, and she was a traditional, typical Indian woman. She was a short-heighted lady, slightly bent, and her one hand were on her stoop, and on other hand she used to have beads of rosary. Beads of rosary, boys and girls, beads, beads of rosary means, if what you call in Hindi language, manko ki mala. And her lips were moving constantly in inaudible prayer, like ram 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 ram. I would like to say you ki means inaudible prayer is that prayer in which the person who speaks very slowly and the other person standing at a distance, and he is unable to understand ki what does the person is speaking. For example, if I'm chanting some mantras, if I'm chanting some shlokas, if I'm chanting some prayers very slowly in this way, it means you can see my lips are moving, but you are unable to understand the words those are depicted by me. In the same manner, since morning till evening, from dusk to dawn, the grandmother, she continuously did her prayer every time. She chanted her prayer every time. And moreover, the physical appearance was that she was the oldest woman, as far as the writers concerned, because he had never seen the oldest woman in his entire life more than his grandmother. Because when he started looking to his grandmother, her face looked very old and terrified, full of crisscross wrinkles and silver lock she was having. Silver lock, I mean to say white hair she was having. And moreover, she was a pure lady. The symbolization of winter landscape has been given in the chapter by the writer for his grandmother. Winter landscape, I mean to say that means especially in the winter season, on the landscape. Landscape means on the mountains. When mountains are covered with the white snow, so they are looking very appealing, mesmerizing, and the symbolization of purity. So that's why her mother, she was the symbolization of purity. She was a spiritual woman. She was traditional, typical Indian woman. Every time she chanted the mantras, every time she chanted the prayer, and she loved her grandson very much. The bonding between the grandson and the grandma was like that. They loved each other very much, and they were very close friends to each other. She awoke the writer in the early morning, and she prepared him for the school. And during when she was preparing the writer for the school, and she chanted her prayer at that time, the grandson, he never bothered to understand the meanings of the words, but he liked in what a way the grandmother she chanted her prayer at that time. And he loved the voice of his grandmother. And after preparing him, she offered him some breakfast with some stale chapatis with some sugar and the butter spread over it. And after taking this, and she offered him some wooden slate that plastered with the white chalk, means multani mitti, what do you call it, fuller earth and earthly ink pot. And she handed over all the things in the hand of the writer, and then she carried some stale chapatis along with him. And then both of them, they left the home. And the grandmother, she escorted her grandson to the school, and the school was located in the temple where a priest used to teach the boys, and he used to make them sit in the lines at that time. And he chanted the alphabets very loudly, and the students started following him. Meanwhile, the grandmother, she never came back to her home. At that time, she sat into the temple and started reading the scriptures. And here, underline the one thing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that she was not an illiterate woman. At that time, she was a literate, because she used to read the scriptures. Outside, the priest, he taught the boys, and the writer, he used to get studied by the priest. And inside the temple, the grandmother, she used the scriptures. In the afternoon, when both of them, they had finished their work, when the school was over here and there, the grandmother, she had read some few chapters of her scriptures, and both of them, they had come out of the temple, out of the school, and they started going back to their home. On their returning back to home, she unfolded the stale chapatis and started throwing it to the dogs, who just started following both of them till their home, fighting and growling for taking the pieces of the chapatis to each other. And this was the first phase, has beautifully been depicted by the writer himself, Khushwant Singh. And this process continued for few months. The second phase got started, and it was with the turning point in the life of the grandmother in the city. In the beginning, I have told you that the parents of the writer, they had got shifted for seeking the better opportunity for earning money. When they had earned the money, and they sent for the grandmother and the grandson in the city, and both of them, they had got shifted in the city, and the city life was completely changed comparatively to the life of the village. And in the city, there were no dogs, and she never escorted her grandson to the school, because Khushwant Singh, and he was admitted to an English school, and here a motor van was arranged for him, and he started doing up and down from school to home to school and school to home. On his returning back in the afternoon, he started telling whatever he had learned from by the teacher, sometime Archimedes principle, the law of gravity, Einstein principle, the earth moves around the sun. But all these things disappointed the grandmother very much, because she never believed in all these things. And moreover, the worst thing was for there for grandmother was that she never liked the music and the songs sung by the writer himself, because for the grandmother, the song must be there to chant the name of the God. She was very much surprised in the school there was no study for gods and scriptures. What was going on? What the hell was that? And for grandmother, music was the source only for the beggars and the harlots, which she disliked very much, and she was getting very much disappointed. And their grandmother, she had nothing to do at that time. How would she pass her time? So that's why she had taken a spinning wheel. Boys and girls, spinning wheel means what you call in Hindi, charkha. And most of the time she started spending her time in the spinning wheel. And once in the afternoon for half an hour approximately, and she spent her time in order to feed the thousands of sparrows, birds, pigeons, sparrows, and parrots, and so many other birds. They used to come and they used to gather around grandmother, and she started throwing them the breadcrumbs. And some of them, they used to sit on her shoulders, some of them, they used to sit on her head, on her knees, but she never got irritated. It was like a bedlam of chirping. Bedlam was the word, means that it like a mental stage. It will mental stage of chirping. I mean to say that it means whenever, suppose if you are listening the sound, the cacophony sound is coming throughout your ears, and it is just screeching, voice is coming and striking your brain, and automatically you are just getting irritated. But she never got irritated. Moreover, she enjoyed their company, and she never shooed them away. This was the happiest hour of grandmother's for the whole day, and she enjoyed the company. Okay, and the third phase got started. The third phase was there when when the writer he grew up and he was admitted to the university and he started going to college. A separate room was given to him. Earlier he used to live in he used to share the room with his grandmother, but now he was given a separate room and he started going to go to college. Now the grandmother, she accepted her seclusion with resignation because of of the future of her grandson. She knew very well that she was very strong minded lady, and she knew very well that she did not want to become a stone in the on the way to success of her grandson, and that's why she had accepted it with resignation. After some days, the grandmother, she was shocked when she was informed by the parents that the writer he was about to be sent to abroad for 5 years. And Khushwant Singh, at that time, the writer, he was shocked that his grandmother might have died, but he was surprised to see that grandmother, she was a very strongly minded lady, and she had escorted him to till railway station, and she kissed on his forehead, and this was the last physical relationship between the writer and his grandmother before going to abroad. At that time, Khushwant Singh was in tension because he was not having surety that on his returning back from abroad, he would be able to see his grandmother alive or not, because she was looking terribly old and she was growing more and more older. That's why. And when he had been to abroad, and after 5 years when he came back to home, and he got very much happy to his grandmother alive. And moreover, the grandmother, she had no source of her joy, no limitation of her joy, and tremendously she was happy, and she started singing the songs of warriors homecoming by collecting some women. And in this stage, my dear boys and girls, one mistake she had committed, which she had never committed in her entire life. On that day, she had forgotten to recite the prayer of God, and when she remembered, and she was shocked. Oh my God, what I have done! I have forgotten to recite the name of the God. And this was a tremendous shock for her mind, and she started thinking that her end was near at that time. And she took a dilapidated drum, means fatafula dhol, and she started thumping it. I'm sorry. She started thumping in a strange manner and started singing the song in a very strange way. The women, they started persuading the grandmother, ki grandmother, just leave it, nothing would be there. But she did not want to listen to anyone anymore. And after some time, when she got tired, and she laid down on the bed, and she got sick. She got sick. After some time, the doctor was called, and he had given some injection and tablets, but they did not put any impact. Sorry, they did not impact anything on the mind of the grandmother. And she was just thinking, she was acquiring a concept in her mind that her end was near. Psychologically, she was getting more and more sick. And then she started requesting everyone to leave her alone, and everybody had left her alone. At that time, she kept her beads of rosary, manko ki mala, and started chanting the prayer in inaudible prayer by closing her eyes. After some time, everybody had seen that suddenly her fingers, they dropped, the beads of rosary, and hand fell down. Everybody had checked the pulse of grandmother, that she was no more in the world. It means the grandmother, she had died. The grandmother, she had died, and the dead body was taken in the veranda, and her body was covered with a cloth. The family started waiting for friends, acquaintance, and relatives, and the thousands of the birds who used to come regularly, and they used to give a company to grandmother for half an hour in the afternoon, and they sat around the dead body of grandmother. The writer of Khushwant Singh, and she brought some breadcrumbs from inside, and she threw towards them, but none of them had taken even a single piece out of them. After some time, the dead body had been taken for cremation, for in the cremation ground, and all the birds, they had been flown away from there. And the next day, the sweeper came, and he collected with the brooming all the breadcrumbs, and he put the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. And here it is the end of the third phase and the end of the story. It means beautifully, emotionally, and full of sentiments, that the writer Khushwant Singh, and he has tried his level best in order to depict the life which he had spent with in the company of his grandmother, that how deeply he was attached to his grandmother, and he had never forgotten till the end of his life his grandmother. So this was the autobiography had been written by him in a beautifully way. So my dear boys and girls, just learn the question answers beautifully, learn the value based questions, and definitely whenever, suppose if you are going to write down the answers in a beautifully way, automatically you'll be getting a more and more ideas. And just try to explore more and more difficult words, and as you would, the world will be yours and you'll be getting success. I hope that you had listened to my words attentively, and my lecture which I delivered in a prolific way, I hope that in a good manner. So I hope that you had enjoyed it. So next time we'll meet you for the next video. Till then, take care, see you, bye bye, thank you so much.